Thank you, Abby. So, Matt, when are you going to preach? I'll tell you. All right. Be careful. Oh, be careful. Well, we are in Ecclesiastes, if you didn't know that already, so please turn in your Bible to Ecclesiastes chapter 2. And as we turn there, I want you to consider and think about something. So it's easy right now for me. If you didn't already understand, I just turned 55 today. Woo! You all say it like woo, I say it like woo, but piece of cake, it's a good year. Only older people will tell you that. I'm just saying, they will let you know. But here in Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, Solomon was searching wisdom out. It's like, how can I take this wisdom that God's given me, and I want to search, and I want to search, and I want to use it, I want to search and search and search. And I think if you have any age to you, you've probably been there. You're hungry to learn more, hopefully, hungry to learn more and go to school and learn more. Some of you are like, no, I don't want to learn more in school. I just like my friends. But, just learn. And in turning to chapter 2, we're going to see that he got worn out searching for satisfaction in wisdom. And now he's going to turn to some things that if probably any point in your life you've had parents or people that care about you say, be careful about these things. And maybe you haven't. But Solomon got to this point to where he searched everywhere and he came up empty. Acquiring more things, more wives, more concubines. Got all the wisdom that anyone could ever have. And he wore out. I have a dear friend of mine. I quietly call him my favorite agnostic. He tells me he views a lot of Christian people and they use God as a crutch. And I think Solomon used experiences and happenings and things as a crutch to find peace in his soul. Just this peace that cannot be understood. And so in Ecclesiastes 2, next slide please, verse 1, I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. You ever said that before? Can't do it. Rick Buckle. I will test you with fans. Enjoy yourself. I will beseech you from the front to turn your fan off, but behold, this also was vanity. I'm grateful for you, Rick. I really am. But pleasure. Things that we've done, I would say apart from the accepting it as a gift from God, it's just another event. And then it's over. I remember clearly when I was really busting it, like at UPS and everything else, planting a church, working 6 days a week plus Sunday, which sort of equals 7 days a week. And I'm blessed now, but at that point in time, I only had 2 vacations. And I remember when vacation would come, and I'd so look forward to it. And it's like, yes. But then I recognized, just like that, I'm back at it. Just like that. You want to go and you want to distract or vacate, and at least I did to some extent, like get away from all that stuff, and that's good. But unless there's a peace in here, it's just another distraction. So Solomon turned to all the distractions that he could find to find pleasure. In Psalm 16, verse 11, it says, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. And at your right hand are pleasures forevermore." This is Solomon's father, King David. "You make known to me the path of life." And what is that path? In your presence. Yesterday, Michael Weil, who I know is not here today, but he did a great job leading the men's group, and he delineated these things about what it means to really experience God and to be full of the Spirit and everything. And it's just like, what is that path of life? One of the things I just said is just to be present. And I didn't understand that for a long time, what it meant to be present. But as at your right hands are pleasures forevermore, God will give you and he'll sustain you. Ecclesiastes verse 2, "I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use to is it?" Going and searching out some of you, like, when's the next comedy show? When's the next thing that can distract me from the toil of life? We go, we laugh, ha, 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 and laughter is good. But if it's just a distraction from whatever, so sometimes I use laughter as a distraction from the pains of life. I've been challenged before that sarcasm is the language of fools. Cowards, sorry. Same thing. Foolish coward. And I war with that statement a little bit, but there's sometimes when sarcasm just sort of got me through, but it was a Band-Aid. It was like really hurting inside. Really hurting. And so then it's just like, okay, I'm going to laugh it off. It's going to be funny. And I learned from MASH. Alan Alda is my spirit animal. Hawkeye. Like, that's where I learned my sarcasm from. Younger people are like, who in the world? But it is a fact for me. Verse 3, "I search with my heart how to cheer my body with wine. My heart still guided me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few days of our life." He was looking to cheer his body. So here's the thing. Here's a fact here. All of us cannot extract from ourselves the desire to find relief from pain. We're all searching for it. We want to find relief, and your pain might be deeply hidden and deeply rooted and well camouflaged and concealed. Smile on the outside, faithful, doing all these things, but there's a pain inside possibly that in you that you have not really pulled out and figured out what it is. And so you look and you search, like we all have done. Look and search and find and do things. What is it that can pleasure me more? What is it? And he looked to wine. You just think of things that you can put into you, food. You look to riches. He looked at all these things to try to sustain it. And he's just like, is this what men do? So next slide, please. I remember a beer commercial. Now, I am not a teetotaler. I'm going to make it really clear. So if you hear me talking, I'm not like saying there's all discretion and wisdom and all that stuff. But I remember, I believe it was a Miller commercial that says it doesn't get any better than this. All the guys, this is back in my childhood, they're by the fire, they're popping a few cold ones. And I remember a preacher one time going, you're right, it doesn't get any better than that, because then you got to go face real life. And then if you're looking, it's like, oh, I can't wait. So I want to drop my shields a little bit and take you back pretty much close to 2 years ago. Before Laura died, I totally my back was gone. Some of you will remember me hobbling up here. I had to take each step real careful, and it was just walking over here, just sort of like, and standing sometimes hurt. So I went to the doctor, and actually I collapsed at the top of my steps in my bedroom, and I couldn't move. And I was screaming. And, so I almost called the ambulance because I didn't think Laura could get me there. She literally put a pillow under my head and drugged me to the bed. And I screamed getting up off the floor. So obviously I had to go to the doctor. They prescribed what I've been used to having, and you might go, you got to be careful. I understand it, but it was literally oxycodone and muscle relaxers. Okay? And I've hurt my back before, and I've done that, and I know how to turn it off. I've been very good at taking less than. But I went after that, soon after, Laura passed. And soon after that, my MRI went to the neurosurgeon in town, and he said, we need to get you into the surgery this month, now. So in that same amount of time, I also was prescribed, and it was very helpful to me, so I want to be clear, some things are beneficial, some things are not, for each individual. But I went and I was taking an Lexapro, I think is what it's called, antidepressant and an anti-anxiety thing, because at night my mind would race. I'd wake up and it's just like, I couldn't sleep, and I was waking up just exhausted. But then I added to it. At night, I'd made a bourbon concoction. So I went not just my regular kidney medicine to my antidepressant, anti-anxiety medicine, to oxycodone and muscle relaxers, then added alcohol to the mix. And it wasn't happy hour anymore. I sat there and I had this moment of revelation. Now I want to tell you, I could manage. Here's the thing I think is an important distinction. I wasn't not showing up to work. I wasn't late. I wasn't not doing stuff. I could manage. But I sat there, and I wasn't falling on the floor. It wasn't like that. But in my heart, in my spirit, I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, Eric, you're not heading in a good direction. And I was sitting in my family room, alone, in the dark, watching something, and completely empty. Wondering and realizing that you couldn't add another thing to my intake that would help me feel better. So, in a sense, in that period of my life, it was a search for pleasure. I avoided other things. It's like we're really good at pointing out what we're good at. I didn't go out to the bars and hang out, and at late night I didn't do any of that stuff. But I sat alone in my misery, and I waded in it a little bit. Any of y'all ever done that? Just sort of swim around in your pool, just like, woo, I really have gotten comfortable here. That mud gets comfortable. Just lay in it. It's soothing until it isn't. But it wasn't a happy hour. It was actually an hour of reflection, and I said, something's got to change. Now, you can apply this for you. You can apply it to what you eat. You can apply it to your exercise level. You can apply it to drugs, alcohol. You can apply it to many different things. We often favor that which we're strong in. We just like, oh, I would never do that. Would never do that. But here we are in our own little world holding on to what's precious to us. I don't know if you understand the increase of drugs and alcohol during the pandemic. Say it went up to 30 to 50%. People were alone. They were not in fellowship. They were not in community. And what did they turn to? More of this, more whatever, more TV, probably all the different Hulu, Netflix, all that stuff increased. And everyone was trying to entertain themselves. I think of Gladiator, the movie, one of my favorite movies. When he came out there and Russell Crowe played the part and he slew all the opposing to him. And the crowds were cheering, and then they weren't cheering because he didn't make an entertainment of it. And he said, "Are you now entertained?" And I think for us, we have this search that Solomon had that we're looking, and sometimes it can be a person. They are going to make me whole. And again, all of these things, most of them anyway, are blessings. I'm not saying you're not to enjoy life. I'm not going back to my childhood in a fundamentalist Baptist church where you couldn't even look a different way and you were in trouble and somehow the chief of sinners. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we can laugh. I'm saying we can do things, but we have to know ourselves. And so during the pandemic, people went down. Just recently, I watched this comedian who said this about our youth. See if you think it applies. He said, "Where are all the kids in Cast?" Let that sink in a minute. I remember Cast all the time. I remember seeing kids all around. But so many of our youth are stuck at home in a dark room looking at a screen. The only way they're going to get into Cast is if they get up and they trip over their food or their drink that's left on the floor. And yet, depression and anxiety are increasing among our teens. I've talked to Tracy about it. She's a teacher. She sees it, all the things. Can I mention? Yeah. She had, that was an honest, that wasn't even me trying to be funny. That was an honest thing that, no names or anything, but it's had a child that overdosed on Benadryl. Almost died. How many was it? 30. TikTok challenge from a couple years ago. They had it calculated to how many they could take, but they miscalculated how many you could take to just sort of be euphoric. And this student literally looked at her and said, "I need help." And now they're finding help for her. But we've created this entertainment culture. We all want to be entertained. Verse 4. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. What are you seeing a lot here? I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. Look at what I did. 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 Verse 7, I bought male and female slaves and had slaves who were born in my house. I had also great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I don't want to get too caught up in this, but right now the numbers are 30 to 50 million people in the world who are in active slavery. It is not limited to biblical times or early American times. It is right now. A lot of people want to criticize, and I could get into debates about it, I don't want to, but I will tell you this. I read one of my favorite orators is, oh my goodness, Frederick Douglass. I mean, I read his books. He's brilliant. He's from around here, born right down the road. Love that guy. I mean, he's one of the people I want to meet. And he visited Ireland during the potato blight, when the English were controlling the Irish. And the Irish were having to put their good potatoes and good crops on ships to feed England, and hundreds of thousands of Irish people died. And you know what Frederick Douglass said? This is worse slavery than what I came from. Slavery is horrible. It's horrible. One of the things I'm in my heart I'm passionate about is this sex trafficking that's going on. You know, and who knows with Solomon? I don't know. You get 900, maybe 800, I can't remember the number, and then concubines. Who knows who was a slave? Verse 8 highlighted it for effect. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and treasure of kings and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man. I gathered for myself. I hear Burl Ives, silver and gold. She makes fun of me. I have a song, you know. So. It's a quote from Cornel West. Never before has the seductive market way of life held such sway in nearly every sphere of American life. This marketing way of life promotes addictions to stimulation and obsession with comforts and conveniences, centered primarily around bodily pleasure and status rankings. The common denominator is a rugged and ragged individualism and rapacious, I don't even know what that word means, but it's bad. Like it's heavy. It's a rapacious hedonism in quest of a perennial high in body and mind. The common denominator. I am strong enough. I can do it. I have attained. I have done. I have whatever. And so this increase of status, and if you want to look to it on like numbers or hearts on Instagram or whatever TikTok has, I don't know. It's like, how can I be more successful? And the kids are even finding out. My daughter regularly deletes her Facebook just to get away from it, Instagram just to get away from it, because it's the suction. It's like a vacuum. It just draws you into nothingness. Because you're always going to find someone else more popular, someone else more powerful, more strong, more beautiful, more whatever. It is this never-ending quest. It is the hamster on a wheel, running exhausted, but doesn't find what it's looking for. In 1 Kings 11, we see Solomon and his search. Now, King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations concerning which the Lord had said to the people of Israel, you shall what? Not enter into marriage with them, neither shall they with you. For surely they will turn away your hearts after their... Solomon clung to these in love. One of the biggest things for me in ministry is watching people search for longing and find love in all the wrong places. Solomon did this. God's warning was that not only will they deviate you from my will and my plan, but they will turn you to their gods and you will bow down and worship their gods. And these aren't wooden gods and concrete gods. These are real entities. Verse 3, here's my answer. In 1 Kings 11, he had 700 wives who were princesses and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, and as was the heart of David his father. He had everything. He even had peace in the land. He had everything could be attained. And he turned. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. So Solomon did what was evil in the sight of the Lord and did not wholly follow the Lord as David his father had done. Pornography or lust after whatever it may be is a god of this world that is enticing and is ensnaring not just men and boys, but women and girls. And it's like, come and embrace this experience. It will be fun, they said. Did God say to not have fun? Does God want you to be miserable? Go, you can have a little fun. But the end thereof is the way of death. It was like back when Krispy Kremes were popular. And I remember Louis Giglio, some of you might remember him from the Passion Conferences. He had a box, and I was in Anaheim, California. He was right in front of me, and I hadn't had them yet. A box of Krispy Kreme donuts. And he's like, his thing was taste and see that God is good. And he had one. Mine was taste and see that 8 of these are good, hot out of the oven. Because it's like, oh, boom, sugar rush. You know, you sort of get that dance going on. It's like, man, and your body just gets all excited. And it's like, I must have another one. It's like Melanie's banana bread that's in there. Depart from me. So good. So here's the thing. All of these things, most of them anyway, are good in the moment, but they leave you empty. When I fasted for a long period of time, this is one thing I can promise you. There was no sugar, there was no nothing. At the end, on a couple times, well, 240 days, at the end of 40 days, there was no part of me that wanted a cake or a pastry or a donut. I wanted a salad or meat or something I could put my hands on. My body craved it. But what happens? That addiction, right? We just got to have what we want. That's another way these gods come to play. Verse 7 of 1 Kings 11. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab. He built temples to other gods. For Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites, on the mountain east of Jerusalem. And so he did for all his foreign wives who made offerings and sacrifice to their gods. I want to briefly say, I could spend a couple hours on this. I've studied it. Don't want to bore you with it. But look at Molech there. Molech is the destroyer. Molech, it is known that people would sacrifice children to Molech. They had a cast ironish thing of this bull with horns and these hands raised up with an open belly and a fire inside of it. And they would go Northeast Africa, near Cyprus, and they would go and offer sacrifices of children. And we would go, I would never do that. And yet, and please, grace and understanding, if you've gone through this, I'm not belittling your experience. But yet, we are now arguing about if it's okay to bring a baby into this world and decide whether its life has value. So some of us can go, I would never do that, but we've got our own little gods. Our comfy little gods. My precious, I knew you were going to get. It's going to hold on to it. I'm not going to do it with this ring. That we hold on to and we're comfortable with. We judge others, I would never. But we're worshiping our own little g gods and praising them and saying, this makes me happy. I'm going to kick down. Oh, no wonder. Verse 9 of Ecclesiastes 2. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom. Do you hear that? My wisdom. Some of you all have spiritual gifts. No, you all do. You might not know it yet. And you might get comfortable with that spiritual gift, and it becomes my gift. Look at what I got. I got this. Solomon forgot. Some of you would go, I would never do that, but God has given you a gift and maybe you've never even used it. You've sat on the thing of, oh no, it's not meant for me to serve God. I'm just a little on the back 40, a little dweller in heaven is all I'm going to call to be. 1 Corinthians 1 says, where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made the foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world did not know God through wisdom, it pleased God through the folly of what we preached to save those who we believe. Therefore, it is not our wisdom that is important, it is God's wisdom. Some of you remember the term soulishness from Watchman Nee. That we think we know what the Spirit is saying, but really it's our spirit that's saying it. It is our wisdom that is speaking what is right for me, as opposed to what is Christ. What is God the Father sitting on the throne saying that is right for me? Because often what I think what is right for me is not right for me. God has a plan. For Jews demand signs and Greeks seek wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to the Jews and folly to the Gentiles. We look like fools. People look at Christians and call us fools. Not all, but some do. What are you doing? It's a beautiful day on Sunday. You're going and raising your hands and singing and clapping and hugging people and all. Weird. Sounds like a cult to me. But I would propose to you, like Louis Giglio did that day, taste and see that God is good. You can't overindulge with God. You can with the things of this world. I care not whether I ever go and have another Krispy Kreme again. because I overindulged and it left nothing to be desired. But those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all of my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity and striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. I watch his podcast often, and this guy's a really big in the business world, but he has a lot of really good things to say. And he talks about the stages of life. And he talks about sort of when you get to his number was 60, that you start looking after what's going to be your legacy. You know, and I'm not making fun of it, but there's a guy that's bought a lot of stuff here, and he's got his name on buildings. In Chincoteague, there's a guy that's bought a lot of stuff there and has bought a lot of things and done things for the community, and he's got his name on buildings. But not long after he's gone, who's that? Who's that? No one's going to care. The sun's going to rise and the sun's going to set, the wind's going to blow, the current's going to come in, high tide, low tide, the moon's going to change, and we're all going to be dust. But what is done for Christ is what will last. Francis Chan said this: our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. We all worry so much about failure, we don't want to look stupid. But maybe we're chasing the wrong thing. You ever seen greyhounds race? I've not seen it in person. But they put this like rabbit on a stick. That's on a stick. You know, this rabbit. ADD is wonderful. I love it. And these greyhounds line up, and that rabbit goes, and they're running. They're chasing. And it's running around. That rabbit doesn't get tired because it's on a stick, and it's being moved mechanically. And those dogs chase it around a field. And the rabbit disappears. The race is over. And they go home. Are you chasing a rabbit on a stick? Or are you chasing God? Are you setting your own parameters for what you think is right? Or are you opening up those fences that you've placed, those self-imposed barriers, and say, God, I want everything that you have for me. Everything. You're neither too old nor too young to do that. Like, I'm tired of chasing and even succeeding at things that don't really matter. Look at what I have done. Look at what I have attained. Look at my credentials. Look at this. Look, look, look. It is nothing apart from the approval of God and the blessing of the people that we do life with together, and we walk in the will of God together, that we will find joy and hope. To the conclusion, skip a couple, Alan, please. Ecclesiastes 12:13. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. This guy had it all. He tried everything, and he came back to this at the end of his life. Don't discount his wisdom. Learn from his mistakes. Don't focus on your strengths, but focus on what God has for you. Don't be judgmental of what other people do. Look at yourself. I'm speaking to myself right now. Focus on what is God calling for me, for you to do, and be obedient of it. Work out that energy in that and get off the judgment train. Remember the two old Muppets? Hey! I don't want them to be my spirit animal. I want to be able to look at the world through God's eyes. Would you join me? Let's pray.